Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to another Writer's Analysis stream where we're going to be analyzing some aspect of our recently published book, Dim Shadow of Spade. Today, we're going to be analyzing the concept of the Aethir, God's people essentially. The Aethir, is what is, as I mentioned before, is God's people. It is a race of what we will recognize as angels in the Bible. They are winged figures. But unlike angels in the Bible, where angels not only reflects to God's children of God, but they also reflect to humans who were sent to heaven and became angels. In my story, there is humans that were sent to heaven after death, and then there's the Aethir. The Aethir represents is kind of like a shorthand for the term ethereal. That's essentially where the word comes from. It's a shorthand for the word ethereal. Ethereal is another word that essentially means space or something. I'm actually going to look up the definition because I don't know the full definition off the top of my head, but I am going to look it up. Ethereal describes something extremely delicate, light, and some seemingly too perfect or insubstantial for this world, often implying a heavenly or spiritual quality. So there you go. Ethereal is that's essentially what that means, and that's essentially where the name Aethir comes from. I would like to point out that in designing this, I actually created this term Aethir during my time in grad school, and I actually was kind of worried that it would. I was kind of worried that it would kind of seem like that that's kind of like similar to the word Aesir, which is what the Norse pantheon of gods are known as. But it is Aethir. It is short for ethereal. What I would also like to say is that God and his people presented in the story in the series, they're actually not from this universe. They are kind of like visitors from an alternate reality. I'm going to be analyzing essentially the event. I'm going to be going into the event of how they were brought into this world when they become relevant to the story, but I am not going to get into this world, into that event right now. This event was actually explained in book 2 briefly by God. Since we're not in book 2, since book 2 is still in development, we are not going to be talking about that right now because that's kind of like spoiler territory. What I will say is, since this is going to be like very long time before, like 3 whole trilogies later, like 2 trilogies later, before I actually go ahead and reveal God's people and God's homeland. God's home planet is called Aetherius, and God's people are actually people that have actually managed to discover ways of essentially eternal life. They cannot be killed by old age. They can only be killed by disease and physical harm. If you were to take a gun and guns won't really work that well. Like human guns won't really work that well on God and his people. But hypothetically, if like a hydration in my story where I take a gun and shoot, I don't know, like Gabriel in the head or something, he actually can be killed that way because he is still mortal. He is still alive. And that actually, it's kind of funny that said Gabriel because Gabriel is actually one of the more tragic characters in the story because in this book, he does die. He is sent to purgatory. But by the end of this first trilogy, he will be brought back. So I get the feeling that people reading this book may read that scene from Gabriel and just kind of think that might be a little bit surprising because Gabriel in the Bible is an archangel. But Gabriel will be brought back and will have a greater role to play, so don't you worry about that. But in relation to the Aethir, God's people, as I mentioned before, they have kind of perfected the eternal life. Essentially, they're going to be killed by disease and physical harm. But they are also people that have actually, because of that, they have actually banned any form of study in aspects of life. So the God's people that reside within heaven, they are most of them. Half of them are scientists that were tasked with studying various aspects of life, and because of this law passed by God's people in His homeland, they could no longer pursue their studies, their investigations, their research. So God actually kind of gave them a platform, a way for them to continue their research in secret. But eventually, that's their secret becoming leaked to the public, and they started to become ostracized because of that. And eventually, they got confronted by their government, and they were exiled. And that's essentially how they were kind of brought into our world. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that, because there's like a very, very important story implication for how our universe was created and how God kind of found himself in our world, and kind of leaving things a lot vague because there are a lot of layers to this story. But the Aethir in God's homeland, they value scientific advancement, scientific pursuits of science, and military pursuits of military. They value those two fields over anything else because of the fact that they have essentially figured out eternal life. They kind of they had to colonize other worlds. Sometimes those worlds were inhabited, and they had to like take over those worlds in order to get more space for them to have colonies, in order for their population to grow. So if you were trying to be like an artist or a writer like myself in that world, you would not find success, because people in that world, in that environment, they do not value the concept of art as much as they value the concept of science and military might. So that's pretty much all I will say about the Aethir, the people of Aetherius that God came from. What I will say is, in relation to this story, I actually have a journal that I planned out, and I wrote all the information I had for the uh, for the uh, different the 12 different Aethirs that are present on Earth or in heaven, or in some cases in hell. So there are 6 Aethir that were in charge of investigating some aspect of life, and 6 Aethir that were in charge of protecting them. The 6 Aethir that were in charge of investigating some aspect of life are actually kind of meant to be parodies of some type of intelligence. For example, God is someone, or his old name Jehovah, was someone that was investigating the concept of good morals, the type of internal force within like every living thing that kind of compels them to do good, or to do good for those around them. He kind of was investigating the internal force that kind of compels someone to do those type of things. His protector was Gabriel. Now, God, the type of intelligence that God is sort of like meant to be a parody of is kind of subtle intelligence. There's likely some people you know in your life who are actually very intelligent, but they kind of depict themselves as kind of being dumb, or kind of more mundane. I'm exactly like that type of person. Like, if you were to talk to me like in a casual setting, you might notice I'm very foul mouthed, have like a very base vocabulary. But I actually am fairly intelligent. I have a master's degree in English. I am very knowledgeable at certain things. I don't really consider myself like, I don't really feel the need to just kind of express my intelligence and kind of show it off in a grand way. God is kind of like that. He is someone that is actually very smart. Actually, the smartest character in the series. He just doesn't display his intelligence that often. And just something I will also say is, just as there are six Aethir that the six Aethir in charge of investigating life are meant to be parodies of a different type of intelligence, the six Aethir in charge of protecting them are meant to be parodies of the different types of strength. Gabriel in the story is kind of meant to be a parody of a strength of heart. Michael is well. Let's go ahead and start with Uriel. Uriel is someone you actually meet in this section. Actually, he is someone that is investigating the creation of life. She is someone that is actually a expert in clone technology, and she actually I think I passed it. Here it is. Here's Uriel. She actually has a scene in book two. Actually, book two is a book one. I remember if it's in book two or book one or not. It looks like it is in book two. So there's a scene in book two where you actually kind of see Uriel's research in action. But unfortunately, I will not be able to show that off because it's actually not published yet. I'm kind of annoyed because I need to do that. I'm kind of annoyed because I kind of realized that there's a typo, like a mistake in my book that fortunately I can't really fix unless I republish it. But anyway, Uriel is someone that investigates the creation of synthetic life. He is someone that is kind of meant to be reflect the type of intelligent people that actually show off their intelligence. She is the type of person that always likes to be right, and she always makes a habit of making other people realize that she is right. She is the kind of person that you probably also seen these people in real life, where uh, if you are someone that just kind of made them kind of made a mistake, and so this person kind of warned you and told you were making a mistake, that person will be the first to tell you "I told you so," and they'll actually take pride in actually kind of in letting you know that they were right. That is the type of person that Uriel is. That's the type of intelligence that Uriel is based on. The other thing I will say is, she is despite that kind of negative depiction, she is actually kind of meant to be kind of more emotional and sympathetic character. But she is someone that is really compassionate, and she is someone that is always kind of motivated by doing the right thing. Her companion, her protector is Michael. Michael is an archangel in the Bible. Same thing with Gabriel. Michael in the story is someone that is represents physical strength. He is someone that is physically strong, and but he is also someone that is motivated with always doing the right thing. But he is in the story, at least in this first book and part of the second book, he is someone that was trying to do the right thing, but he was kind of manipulated and ended up doing the wrong thing. And throughout this course of this book and part of book two, he is trying to make peace with them, trying to do right, to right his mistakes that he made by putting his trust in the wrong people. Michael is someone that is in the Bible. He is actually someone that I believe is supposed to confront Lucifer and the apocalypse. He is often kind of described as holding a sword of a Michael, which is like a flaming sword, and you actually kind of see that in book two. Michael is someone. Michael is someone that is kind of like a darker skin. He is bald, uh, but he has a black wings. And I should also mention that every single Aethir has different colored wings to kind of distinguish them. Jehovah, when I am ready to show them, They will have auburn colored wings, orange wings. Gabriel has dark brown wings. Uriel has I can't read that. Aqua wings, aqua colored wings. Michael has black wings. Every single like Aethir has like different colored wings to kind of distinguish them. But the other thing is, the only other character that you see in the story, I believe, is Provil, who is someone that he is someone that is in charge of creating dimensions and worlds that are capable of sustaining life. Because it's and he is someone that is he's kind of meant to reflect social intelligence. You likely have encountered people in your life that are actually kind of quick to pick up things in social situations. Praviel is exactly like that. He is someone that is very, very quick to pick up on things in social situations. If you are trying to hint at something, trying to be vague or subtle, Praviel will pick up what you're trying to imply, even if no one else in the conversation actually understands it. He is actually someone that is very, very emotional. He is someone that is motivated by kind of emotional things. Same thing with Uriel, but in a different way. He is not opposed to kind of standing up. He's not really that afraid of like standing up to people like Jehovah as he had did prior to the events of the story. When he kind of allied with Samael at one point. Uh, he is someone that is willing to do the right thing no matter the cost, even if it kind of puts him in a bad position. You actually kind of see him for the first time in book part 2 of this book, where God was actually kind of meeting Pravio in the story, and he actually kind of referred to him as a former ally and a traitor. But he was kind of forced to forgive Pravil and kind of acknowledge that God was wrong in his decision to banish him. And I'll kind of get into more of that situation, that decision a little bit later in a later video, because it's kind of a lot of stuff that I kind of want to talk about in relation to this story, a lot of subtle events and stuff that I kind of want to discuss. Pravil is someone that has silver wings, and again, he's in charge of creating dimensions or worlds that are capable of sustaining life. His protector is someone that you won't see in the story, but you will see in book 2. And his name is Raphael. He is someone that like he is kind of like a weird character. In book 2, you first see him like kind of pretending to be someone else. He's a great actor. He's great at performing specific roles. But his strength is that he is this is something that I haven't really figured out the strengths of each character. And you actually meet you will actually meet four more characters in book 2. Raphael is one of them. We'll need to figure out the type of strengths that each character actually represents. But I guess I don't need to talk about Raphael right now. It's just giving me time to try and figure out like more about his character. But he is someone to kind of get into a little bit of what he is kind of about. He is someone that left heaven and kind of self-exiled himself on Earth 10,000 years ago, and he has been living on Earth among humanity for 10,000 years. There's actually this is something that I'm actually not gonna outright state in my story, but it's something I'm gonna bring up here. Throughout history, you may actually hear stories about people that are kind of labeled by the Catholic Church as a saint. There's especially like a bunch of saints that kind of rose during the Middle Ages. one story I heard when I was taking a medieval literature class, where there was a depiction of a saint in the Middle Ages that had his head decapitated by a soldier, and his body picked up his severed head and walked like 20 miles to a town with a church. Actually, with a monastery. And he walked into the church, seen by everyone apparently, and then he died within the church. And that because of that event, that might as well be fiction. Uh, Probably to someone that like me, that's kind of more logical. Uh, he was kind of labeled as a saint by the Catholic Church. There are a bunch of these stories that people just kind of do. Humans are doing these divine things that are just kind of given labels as saints. In fact, the Catholic Church is still kind of labeling saints today. The most recent one, I believe, was actually, let's go ahead and find this out. Saint Carlo Acutis, a Italian teenager known as God Influencer who died in 2006, was canonized as a saint by Pope Leo XIV on September 7th, 2025. He is recognized as the first millennial saint, noted for his deep faith, compassion for the poor, and for documented Eucharist miracles online. So he is an influencer who was kind of made a saint after his death. So that's as just an example of saints still being made in life by today by the Catholic Church. I happen to kind of circle this back down to Gabriel. I have an idea, and I'm not entirely sure if I will do this, but it will. It actually does make sense. But as a possible explanation for how people kind of got these divine powers, I had an idea kind of having these people kind of be descendants of Gabriel and kind of have their powers manifest in unique ways. It's just to kind of essentially they are as these saints are essentially Nephilim. They have the blood of an Aethir in them, and they kind of have their powers manifest in different ways, as I said before. But that's essentially my idea. I'm not really sure if I'm going to implement that. It kind of makes sense, but I haven't really decided on anything yet. But that's kind of like what my idea was for Gabriel's character. Again, Gabriel Raphael's character. Again, he is someone that's been living on Earth for like 10,000 years on that story. And he kind of recently came back into heaven in the second book. That's actually gonna be the only character from book two that I'm gonna be analyzing this story, because it doesn't really make any sense for me to analyze a character that you haven't really seen yet. The only other character that I could talk about in relation to the Aethir in my story is Azrael. Azrael is the angel of death. She is someone that has red hair and petite, like very small, red wings. Azrael is someone that is socially awkward. She's actually been kind of compared. She's actually been kind of described in a way that's similar to someone that has autism, like myself. She is very socially awkward. She lacks confidence in speaking in social situations, but she is does her best work alone. That's kind of like what the type of intelligence she is kind of like based on. She is based on the type of people that is actually does their best work alone, but kind of struggles in social situations. You actually see more of Azrael. The story goes on, but she is someone that is that investigated the aspects of death itself. She kind of figured out where the soul goes when they die, and she actually kind of change it so the souls actually go to either heaven or hell when they die. And she is someone that is she's kind of meant to be like a very important character in the story, but she is someone that is devoutly loyal to God or Jehovah. She is actually kind of meant to be in some ways she's kind of meant to be like a parody of myself, because I'm someone that struggles very well and very. She is someone that struggles a lot in social situations like myself, and I think that she could be like a very well loved character if I continue to develop her in a specific way. She is actually someone. The thing that's important to note about Azrael is she is the mother of Elizabeth Hart. Elizabeth Hart is an F. Oops, what did I just do? Elizabeth Hart is a Nephilim. She is the first Nephilim seen in ages, actually, and she is the daughter of Azrael and a human. She is actually kind of meant to be despite she was actually kind of created at the order of God in his way of trying to manipulate a future event. And this is something I'm going to be discussing in a later video, but this is something that's going to be very important by the end of this series. And I'm not sure when I'm going to be talking about this, but you actually kind of see this way at the beginning, hints of this way at the end of the story. Right here in this scene here, where Georgie kind of eavesdrops on God communicating with this unknown entity. I just realized this also. Oh well, I don't know why there's formatting issues. Anyway, thought I caught them all. Kind of snooze that a bit again. The only other thing that I will say about the Aethir is that there is a lot about their culture and their government and their social life that I am not going to divulge until the third trilogy, and that's become more important. There's actually a book that I'm planning on writing called Dim Origins that is meant to be a complete backstory behind behind God's story and God's history. And the Aethir are going to be a very advanced and important uh, race that you will actually see. But it was also interesting. It will also be kind of interesting because in the Bible, and especially in other religious texts that are not in the Bible, there's at least like hundreds of different angels. There's even like different races of angels, like cherubim, that are essentially like baby angels. Uh, I made the creative decision to kind of include only 12 angels so far. That are going to be more important to the plot of the story, but there's going to be more. There's going to be more important characters as the story progresses, but for right now, only 12 characters are going to be important in the story. As the story progresses, I will be hinting, will be revealing more. But these 12 characters are going to be integral in the story. Uh, if you are a fan of Supernatural, some of these characters you may actually recognize. If you're a fan of TV show Lucifer, some of these characters you may actually recognize. But there's actually a couple characters in the story that I have actually seen depicted in any sort of fiction, at least not that I can recall. One of them is being Duma, and the other is Zachiel. These two characters actually fallen angels in the Bible that kind of like betrayed God and supported Samael's rebellion. Duma, for some reason, whenever I looked up Duma, like he just kind of was depicted as kind of being a monstrous entity, but he is actually a fallen angel. Same thing with Zachiel, he is also a fallen angel, and I just kind of decided to kind of incorporate those characters because they were the first characters I kind of saw that were fallen angels. But they will become important in book 2 and book 3, as well as the third trilogy, the second trilogy, I should say. But the only other thing that I will say is, even though he wasn't mentioned, even though it wasn't seen in the story, he is mentioned, and that is Samael. Samael is someone that investigated the concept of bad morals. He is someone that investigates that internal feeling within every living thing that compels you to do bad things. And he has white wings in the story, kind of like how Lucifer was portrayed in the TV show Lucifer by on CW. Samael is was very close with Jehovah or God, but he kind of had a falling out with him over time, and there was kind of like blame on both sides. But he is someone that's gonna be like very important, and how I'm gonna be writing his character is also gonna be very different from how, let's say, Supernatural wrote his character and how Lucifer and how the TV show Lucifer handles the character. Samael is not someone that is evil for the sake of being evil like Lucifer in Supernatural. Even though, like, at the end he was more complex, and he actually did kind of changing to more of an anti-hero role in the later seasons of Supernatural. And he is not going to be like Lucifer in the TV show Lucifer, in the sense that he is someone that has father figure issues in and the show, and he is someone that is trying to go on a path of redemption. Samael in my story is someone that is kind of motivated by grief. He is someone that's very close with God or Jehovah in the past, and he hated how they changed over time. And he, in some ways, he desires more than ever to kind of restore a balance between the two forces, between heaven and hell, and to try and, in some ways, he just kind of wants to bring his friend back. He kind of wants to kind of return Jehovah or God to who they were in the past, but they kind of had a falling out, and they won't kind of have their past reconciled until at least book 3, at most, of the second trilogy. But that's all I'm gonna say about those characters. How I'm gonna be writing Samael and the rest of these characters is gonna be very different from how other fictional medias actually kind of reflects those characters. If you are interested in seeing more of these characters, I highly encourage you to wait until my second and future books are published. I think the next video that I'm gonna be analyzing, I'm gonna have to think on it, but I'm kind of running out of ideas. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, but there's actually kind of would be better for me to discuss them in book 2. When book 2 is published, for example, I'd like to be able to talk about the Primal Order. I would like to be able to talk about Charlotte Matthews, but I can't really talk about that until book 2 is published, when they actually get more screen time. The other thing I want to talk about is I guess what I could talk about is kind of my overall use of foreshadowing in my story, because I do a lot of foreshadowing in my story, and I think that could be actually a very important, could be a very interesting video. So yeah, that's foreshadowing is something I'm going to be doing a lot in my series. So I think that for next Wednesday's Writers Analysis series, I'm going to be analyzing the concept of foreshadowing that I kind of been doing throughout this book. I'm gonna need to look through my book in detail and try and figure out like where all the instances of foreshadowing is. I know where some of them are, but there's probably more that I'm not really thinking of. But that's gonna be what we're gonna be analyzing in next Wednesday's Writer's Nest video from 1 p.m. Undetermined time Pacific Standard Time. If you are remotely interested in what all the games that I cover on the channel will be played for 100% completion. I'm going to be streaming Far Cry 4 for 100% completion on Fridays, 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to be streaming Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered for 1% completion on Saturdays, 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. And I'm going to be streaming Saints Row 2 for 1% completion on Sundays, 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. In addition to that, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to be hosting a writer's workshop stream where from 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be working on my next book. And on Wednesday, it's going to be hosting a writer's analysis stream where from 1 p.m. to an undetermined amount of time, I'm going to be analyzing some aspect of a recently published book, Dim Shadow of Spade. That's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.